for Trump, it's like a real estate deal. So you get some land, Ukraine gives something, Russia gives something. But we also should understand for Putin, this is about his legacy. This is about Russia's role in European security. This is really the big game which he's playing now. So for him, it's there are much bigger stakes in a way on what he will negotiate, and he will also pay a very high price to get what he wants. While Trump just wants one of these many deals and then maybe getting the Nobel Peace Prize. I think what we see now is also bankruptcy of US credibility.
Hello and welcome to Frontline for Times Radio with me, Kate Chabot. And today we are joined from Berlin by Dr. Stefan Meister. Stefan is from the Centre for Eastern Europe, Russia and Central Asia at the German Council on Foreign Relations. Stefan, really good to have you on Frontline and welcome to the episode. We are speaking ahead of the Trump-Putin meeting in Alaska. There has been a flurry of political and diplomatic talks to try and set the parameters for these talks, starting with those launched by the German leader in Berlin yesterday. How do you see things now at 2 p.m. London time on Thursday?
So thank you, first of all, for having me. I think we first of all have to see that it was a big success for Chancellor Merz to organize this European meeting with President Zelensky together with Donald Trump. I think somehow Germany is back also leading Europe on Ukraine and also getting access to the US president. We will have to see what comes out of this big meeting. And as we all know, with Donald Trump, you only know when he meets the person, what he's really doing and thinking and saying. So I think it was good and important that we had this common European approach, also showing solidarity with Ukraine yesterday. But how much it will really impact on Trump's negotiations with Putin, I'm not so sure. Yeah, so I think the maximum Europeans can get is that Trump does not agree on something with Putin, which is only good for Russia, but not good for Europe and not good for Ukraine.
Yeah, and those meetings yesterday, Europe have laid out their principles for talks. A ceasefire comes first. Security guarantees must be provided. Russia should not have the right to veto Ukraine's NATO prospects, and there should be joint pressure on Moscow. Instead, the Kremlin is talking about huge untapped potential ahead of this meeting between Russia-US economic ties. I mean, what Russia is looking for is completely in contradiction of what the Europeans are wanting.
Absolutely. I think Putin has very different goals, and he has not moved any millimeter of compromise on his initial goals. And I think we all understand he wants to control Ukraine. He wants to have a leading role in European security. He wants to weaken also US role in NATO and in Europe. And he wants to dismantle the Ukrainian state. So I think this is all unacceptable for Ukraine and also for Europe. I think that's very clear. But I don't see at the moment that Putin has not the impression he has to make any compromises. He gets the big summit with Trump without European leaders and without Zelensky. And we even discussing handing over land to Russia. So I think Putin got maximum what he wanted at this point. And now it's really crucial to support Ukraine in a way that nothing happens, which is really in the end agreeing on that Russia really gets this territory de jure, but also de facto. So I think this will be a major challenge with the US president who has very different goals. Yeah, he's not so much focused on European security. He wants to withdraw also US from Europe and from US responsibility from Ukraine. And I think this is a very big mismatch between Trump and Putin.
Do you think it was a mistake if what actually does happen is what is being said is going to happen, that Trump and Putin meet together on their own with only interpreters?
I think it's a big mistake that this meeting at all takes place, how it takes place now. And I think the big problem is on the US side, there will no Russia expert. There will be no Russia expert, no one who understands Putin or Russia. For Trump, it's much more about himself and his big ego, while Putin has the dossier of, he's a former KGB agent, yeah? So he has a dossier of Trump. He knows his weaknesses. He has a goal also what he wants to get out of these negotiations. And that means he will dominate the agenda and the whole meeting with Trump, while Trump will just yeah, he wants to have a good deal, I think, without knowing what it really means to have a good deal with Putin.
When you say he will dominate the agenda ahead of this meeting, it appears the Kremlin is already saying that there's going to be a joint press conference between Donald Trump and President Putin afterwards. We don't know if that is actually going to happen, but how are they positioning themselves even before the talks start?
No, I think the big mistake from the US and also European side, also NATO side, is from the beginning to talk about Ukraine has to make concessions on territory. I think this is highly problematic. And also on territory which is not occupied yet by Russia. I think de jure, Ukraine should never give up Ukrainian territory, also not Crimea. This is also not in European interest, and it's not good for European security if this takes place. But Putin already has set the agenda that we're discussing his demands on territory, on neutrality of Ukraine, on no NATO membership of Ukraine. And I think without security guarantees, there will be no functioning ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia. So I think Putin already has defined what will be discussed there. And we as Europeans can only listen what is the outcome, and we will hear it then with the press conference, which will very likely take place afterwards.
The first meeting, Trump says, will go, if it goes well, there will be followed by a second quick meeting, he said, with Zelensky, possibly with Trump there. But I suppose the point is, what is Donald Trump's interpretation of it going well?
Yeah, we don't know. I think he even does not know what is the interpretation of it's going well. I think for him, he even sees it as a success that he meets with Putin and talks about this. But this is not Trump's success. This is Putin's success. Putin is back on the diplomatic field. He's not isolated anymore, and Donald Trump is awarding him in a way, despite ongoing brutal war. So I think for Trump, I don't know. I think it's very difficult to say. I think it's if Putin gives him something where he has the impression that he made concessions. But again, I don't see Putin making any concessions at this point.
Before the meeting, Trump said there would be serious consequences if Putin doesn't agree to a ceasefire. Now, we have heard this before, and we have seen that all of the threats of sanctions or whatever that Trump has said he might impose have never transpired. It's anyone's guess what he's going to be saying when he comes out, isn't it? What if he does, if nothing happens, you say it is the best outcome. How does this make the US position in all of this?
So I don't think that Trump is willing to sanction Russia really in a serious way. He's talking about this already since months, and he's not doing it. And I don't see that he's willing to do it. My bit is, or what I'm afraid of, is that Trump then, when he does not get any result, he thinks this is a good result, he might withdraw. So he might decide, okay, that's done. I don't want to deal with this. It's something the Europeans and Ukrainians have to do by themselves. And I'm just withdrawing from this whole thing because it's just helpless. So this is what I'm also afraid of, that the US is withdrawing, not only not supporting Ukraine anymore, but also playing a role in the negotiations with Russia. And this is a threat which is there.
And if that is the threat, then President Putin has only that to gain by prolonging this, frustrating Trump and making him want to go away. That's the best thing that could happen for him.
No, I think Putin is in the best position he could be. And Trump has helped him to be there. No matter what comes out, he will win. Yeah, because he's not isolated anymore. And Trump, in the end, Trump has to show a success. So Trump will make concessions in a way towards Putin just to get a success, while Putin is still a maximalist. He has not moved any inch on compromises. So I don't see Putin making compromises and then only tactical compromises. So he is in a way he's in a position of strength because he knows that Trump will not sanction him in a serious way.
I think I've heard you say before that Trump sees this as it's not sort of peace talks or talks towards a ceasefire, but more just deals to be made. If this comes down to some kind of renewal of relations between Russia and US, what are the consequences of that?
So my impression is for Trump, it's like a real estate deal. So you get some land, Ukraine gives something, Russia gives something. But we also should understand for Putin, this is about his legacy. This is about Russia's role in European security. This is really the big game which he's playing now. So for him, there are much bigger stakes in a way on what he will negotiate, and he will also pay a very high price to get what he wants. while Trump just wants one of these many deals and then maybe getting the Nobel Peace Prize. I think what we see now is also bankruptcy of US credibility in Europe. And in the world. It's a major blow also for transatlantic relations. I think this meeting is a major blow for our relations with the US. And it can be also a bankruptcy of US diplomacy. If there's no serious diplomat around who is really seriously negotiating with Putin and Trump makes some concessions which are just unacceptable, I think this will undermine the credibility also of the US as a global actor.
What do you think, President? I mean, you said he will have a big dossier on Donald Trump. He will have done his research. And the big question is how much research and preparation Donald Trump will have done before this meeting. What do you think? What lines do you think President Putin might be taking? I mean, you know Soviet politics very well. You know President Putin's background. What lines of persuasion do you think he'll be using?
No, he will please him. He will give him that he's a great leader. He will show Trump that he's a great person who can make great deals, and then he will offer him business deals. Definitely, I think this is something Trump is very open for it. So it can be something on Arctic, it can be something on minerals, on resources. I think he will definitely try to buy into Trump. And then he will sell something on Ukraine as a concession, of Russia, which is actually not a concession. So you get maybe small territory, but then we get more territory from Ukraine, or we want to have Crimea de jure. So he will do this kind of bargaining, but selling him a Russian success as a US success.
And the question will be is whether or not Donald Trump buys what Putin supposes that he's offering as some kind of concessions in Ukraine, which in fact, if it isn't, it will be roundly rejected by the Europeans in Ukraine. Then where does it leave us?
Yeah, then we will see how strong Europe is to support Ukraine, really, how much Europe is really able to step in. I think the whole discussion about security guarantees, this is now the crucial issue for Ukraine, and Europeans have to do something here. They have to invest into this. I think we will have a major blow in transatlantic relations. I think Europe cannot accept certain kind of concessions because it really undermines our own security. So I think Putin would have another success because one of his goals is to divide Europe and the US and transatlantic relations. And I think this is exactly maybe one of the main aims of this summit from Putin's side.
There was a meeting of the Coalition of the Willing, wasn't there, after the other meetings that were staged or launched by Friedrich Merz yesterday. And it seems that there is a bit of optimism that progress was made, and the security guarantees, they're starting to talk about reassurance forces again. Is this really, though, putting the cart before the horse?
You know, I was looking into all the statements also of Chancellor Merz, but also of others. And for me, this is more like... let's sell it. Let's sell it as a big success. Yeah. So I think yes, it was a success that this meeting took place, but how much impact it will have, I really have my doubts. And Merz was also asked about security guarantees, and in the end he said we didn't talk about it because we cannot agree, because we don't have the forces at the moment to do security guarantees, and without the US and US troops, Europe is not able to give Ukraine security guarantees.
And when you say they couldn't agree on security guarantees, I mean, this is quite a critical moment for not only Ukraine, but Europe as well, isn't it? Because, I mean, if they don't pull together, what are the chances of them falling apart?
Yeah, I think, but this is where Europe is at the moment. I think we didn't prepare for Trump too. We didn't prepare after 2014 for this war. And even in 2022, we didn't do the things which were necessary. And only now, since Trump is blackmailing Europe on defense and on trade, we're starting to invest in our own security. So I think Europe was waiting until the last moment and only acts if there's pressure. And I think now we will act if the pressure is there, but we are not ready. And that's why we are not on the table. Europe is not on the table because Europe is not an actor in European security, or not a key actor in European security.
Is there anything that European leaders can do right now to turn things and have more influence in the current situation?
Yes, I think it's really about a serious investment and planning in Ukraine defense. I think key is that Ukraine is able to defend itself, and we now should buy invest, we should have done it yesterday, that we really can supply Ukraine in a much more comprehensive way. And then we need to come into terms on security guarantees. I think we need to integrate Ukraine into the European security system. Ukraine is the defense line towards Russia, and Ukraine is our insurance towards Russia. So we need to have these security guarantees and integrate Ukraine into it. And that will increase the price for Russia. But we need to come into, we need to talk about it, and we need to invest in it, and we need to act and not just announce something which is then later be done.
So assuming we come out of this meeting and the best case scenario is, which you've said, nothing happens, what is the next step? What do you perceive happening in the next few months?
So I don't think there will be really a result of this meeting. So I'm rather skeptical, or even if they agree on something, to negotiate the details of any kind of agreement on territory, on ceasefire. I think that will take weeks, maybe even a month. What we see is at the moment that Russia is advancing in eastern Ukraine. Several fortress cities will fall soon from the Ukrainian side, so we will have some breakthroughs from Russia. But we're still discussing here Donbass. So I think it's not other territories of Ukraine. But I think what we will see is, whatever happens, more US withdrawal in supporting Ukraine. Europeans will have to really top up financially in terms of support, and also in military ways. And we really have to discuss security guarantees. I think we have to discuss really different kind of European actorness in this war, and not just convincing Trump to do this and that.
When you say security guarantees, can you just outline how you see them, how they could work?
I think the problem with security guarantees is, in the end, they need to be credible for Russia. So Russia should not be invited to test something where we are not really willing or able to act. So I think you can deploy troops on the contact line, but then you need also US logistics, US intelligence. So you need some kind of US support. I think without this, it's just impossible at the moment. And we might even not have sufficient troops. So I think what we could start is to integrate parts of Ukraine, at least, in European air defense on the border to Europe. We have to heavily invest in air defense. I think this is also what happens now, and it will also take some time. But then I think we need to build up the capabilities to supply on one point such troops, and start to invest also replacing US role in certain kind of capabilities we have. So you understand what I'm saying. So I think this is nothing which will happen tomorrow. Yeah. So it will take some time anyway, but at least to have parts of Ukraine under European or under NATO air defense, I think that could be something which could have already an effect.
If I could just ask you to take a step back and an overview, how big a moment do you think this is, not only for Ukraine, but also for European security?
I think this is a key moment, because it's about the US role, not only on Ukraine and for Ukraine, but also in European security. I think this summit is, and this is what Putin understands, and I'm not so sure if Trump really understands it. This summit is about the future also of transatlantic relations and the US role in European security. Because Trump might withdraw after this summit, or might make concessions towards Russia, which will harm European security.
Dr. Stefan Meister, it's been great to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You've been watching Frontline for Times Radio. If you'd like to know more about the war in Ukraine, you can subscribe and sign up for a membership. You can also get more analysis by listening to Times Radio or read thetimes.com. But for now, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.